So I want to welcome you all. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Noor Laham, a Senior Portfolio Manager for Ventures at BBSRC, and I'm joined today by my colleague James Mooney, a Business Incubation Program Manager at STFC. We're very glad to be speaking to you today about our Biotechnology Business Incubation Center, or BioBIC for short. So for today's webinar, we will give you a brief overview of UKRI, which is our umbrella organization. Then we will move on to focus on BioBIC, its model, and what support does it offer. Then we will talk about the application process and the assessment criteria. And we will also talk to you about our portfolio and the range of companies that we supported so far during the program. And we're also very excited to be joined today by Celestine from SignaturBio, which is one of our BioBIC company, and he will be talking to you about his journey with the experience with BioBIC. Lastly, we will open the floor for questions, so please feel free to drop any questions you have in the Q&A box, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. So UK Research and Innovation, or UKRI, is the largest public funder in the UK. We're funded by His Majesty Treasury, and we report directly to DSIT. UKRI constitutes of 9 organizations, including, of course, STFC, BBSRC, and Innovate UK. As UKRI, we invest over 8 billion a year to support economic growth and to benefit society. And that is, of course, through supporting academic research, as well as different initiatives and programs that we have to support early stage innovation startups. And BioBIC is one of those initiatives, and it is a UK-wide incubation program that aims to support early stage bioscience companies de-risk their technology, develop their business model and business plan, and to launch their MVP into the market, and to be able to further attract follow-on support and private investments. The BioBIC is based on the successful European Space Agency BIC, which was founded and led by STFC and has had an amazing track record over 15 years that it's been running. As you can see from the numbers, so the companies that joined ESA BIC has shown 95% survival rate, a great follow-on private investment, and a huge economic impact. So building on the success of ESA BIC, BBSRC and STFC established a partnership to adopt the BIC model and tailor it to address challenges and address any needs that biotechnology companies have. So what is it that BioBIC offers? BioBIC provides a comprehensive package of support that includes 50K of R&D grant funding. So this is non-dilutive funding, 10K innovation voucher to access specialized facilities for work to validate assumptions for R&D, and we will explore that in more details in a minute. You will also get access to STFC SciTech site at Daresbury. And we're also very glad to announce that as part of our BioBIC expansion plan, you can now also get access to Rothamsted Enterprises and our innovation, which are 2 BBSRC supported campuses, as well as the Pirbright Institute. And again, as I said, I will talk about this in more details in a bit. Additionally, throughout the program, you can get access to lots of technical support, commercial support, and business coaching by expert consultants in the field. We also provide IP support and lots of opportunities to network and connect with investors. For example, the picture you see here is from an investor mixer dinner that we had last month for BioBIC companies. So this is an example of the different events we hold for our companies, as well as we can facilitate one-to-one connections with various VCs within our networks. So as I mentioned, BioBIC is a holistic program that not only offers grant funding, but also leverages the capabilities we have at BBSRC and STFC. I mentioned access to facilities, so companies applying to BioBIC can choose an incubation site where they can rent lab and office space, and that could be at SciTech Daresbury. which is an STFC campus, Rothamsted Enterprises, which is based in Harpenden in Hertfordshire, and it specializes and offers great capabilities in the agriculture and agri-tech space. And of course, Aber Innovation, which is based in Aberystwyth in Wales, and specializes in food tech and has great expertise and capabilities in food and drink space, as well as agri-tech. And I'll provide links in the chat shortly for all those different sites so that you can check what capabilities they have and what do they offer. And if you're not sure what capabilities you want or you need for your technology, we're very happy to discuss this and support you through the process of figuring this out. And of course, there is also an option for you to join Bio BIC as a hybrid model. Additionally, through the innovation voucher that I mentioned, this allows you to use it for R&D work and is eligible to use with over 350 UK organizations. That includes universities, catapults, RTOs, and of course, STFC campuses and facilities, Rothamsted Enterprises, and Aber Innovation. You can also get specialized support from the Pirbright Institute. The Pirbright Institute is a leading research center for preventing and controlling viral diseases of livestock. But of course, due to national security reasons, companies cannot get physical access to the institute. However, the team at Pirbright is very happy to provide expertise and are open to any collaborative work. So again, we're very happy to support you through the process if you need access, and we can always discuss that further. Beyond that, if you join Bio BIC and our campuses, you can benefit from the wider campuses network that we have, and you can also be eligible to further support such as Campus Innovation Awards and UK Science and Innovation Seed Fund. So again, as I said, I'll provide all the links in the chat. And with this, I'll hand over to James so he can talk a bit more about the application process and the eligibility criteria. So off to you, James.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for attending this afternoon's webinar. So, as Noor mentioned, this is a program modelled on 15 years of successful incubation programs with the European Space Agency. This is our third cohort, which we're recruiting for. In the first two cohorts, we onboarded 7 companies, and they've all been able to push on and really grow with some really impressive results, which Celestine obviously will share his story at the end of this call. What we're looking for this programme, we're looking for UK registered companies that are 5 years old or younger. You need to be majority owned by founders and employees. So if you're majority owned by an additional corporate, then unfortunately you would make it ineligible. But if you are just a founder or co-founders, please get in touch. We'd be really happy to help you. We're looking for companies who have proven concept. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to be revenue making, but you have to show that your science or your product is beyond the concept stage, that you've got some form of market validation, and that you validated the most basic assumptions for your product development as well. We also ask that you meet one of the criteria of receiving UKRI funding or participating in an accelerator or pre-incubation support program from a recognised organisation. For example, we've had companies from Antler, Entrepreneur First, as well as public sector incubation programs as well. We do ask that all companies have a strong tie into the BBSRC remit. So here we go, must be biological in nature, interact with a biological entity, involve a biological process or address a biological change. This could be anything from across plants, microbes, animals, including humans, or any tools and technology that underpin biological research. As mentioned here, applications based on medical clinical devices and therapeutics, developed solely for specific endpoint clinical utility, we can't accept, unfortunately. So the process, right now our expression of interest is live. If this is something you're interested in, please pop it in the chat or get in touch with Noor or myself after this, and we will happily share the expression of interest with you. This is also available across all our marketing channels across BBSRC and STFC. The deadline for this is the 7th of September, so it gives you about 6-7 weeks to complete this. It's, the expression of interest is fairly simple. We just ask what you're building, why you want to be part of Bio BIC, and what kind of support facilities you'd like to access. We'll then give you until the 6th of October to deliver a full application. At any point during the application, myself or my colleague Sneha Dar are on hand to review the application, any first drafts, and to provide any sort of critical feedback that can potentially help you. If successful, we'll then invite you to our tender evaluation board, where you present your solution in front of a panel. This will normally look like a 10-minute presentation, followed by a 20-minute Q&A. If successful, then we would invite you to start the program. So the program itself is an 18-month program. It does look at £50,000 in grant funding, as Noel mentioned previously, a £10,000 innovation voucher, plus access to BBSRC campuses and facilities, and STFC campuses and facilities as well. At the EOI stage, we do look for potential eligibility, make sure you fit within the remit and understand your motivation. And when we do go for a full application stage, we do analyse your business model, your competitive awareness and market analysis, your value proposition, how innovative your technology is, your team about building a solution, your market knowledge, and what sort of traction and support you've had so far to validate certain assumptions. As mentioned, we have onboarded 7 companies so far onto the program, and we're really excited by all these companies on board. Celestine at SignaturBio will obviously give him all that detail about his journey on the program so far. But all these companies come from kind of a diverse spectrum. We've got food production companies, a number of microbiome companies as well, and cancer diagnostics. So on that note, I'll pass on to Celestine to tell you more about his journey.
Hi everyone, thank you very much. I'm really happy to share our experience for this grant. So I have some slides to share just to introduce the company itself. So right. Yeah, I mean, Signature Biosciences it has been out from the student group at Imperial College London, now at Oxford University. But the goal of the company is to make precision diagnostics more accessible. And the reason why we have this mission is because right now you got so many good tests that are not accessible for patients. Most of the time because they're quite complicated and they need big fancy machines and centralized lab to run these tests. One of the best example of just that is breast cancer prognosis. So the idea is that when a woman has breast cancer, the first step is a surgery to remove the tumor. But after that, chemotherapy can be done to prevent the cancer from coming back, prevent relapse. But sometimes there is no relapse. And if there is no relapse, well, there is absolutely no need for chemo. But of course, you need a test to know whether to decide on your treatment, essentially. And there is a test that exists that does exactly that. It's called Oncotype DX. Clinically speaking, it's a great test, but practically, that's another story. So basically, because of the technical complexity, every single sample in the planet all has to be flown to a centralized lab in the Bay Area in the US. Actually, it's back and forth because it's really important for hospitals to have sample ownership. Well, the problem with that is that the test takes up to 3 weeks and can cost around $4,000. And so what we do, we are building a generic or a biosimilar that takes the exact same gene expression panel. So it's the same biology. So we keep the same clinical utility, but because of our technology, we can turn that into a kit, a PCR kit that any hospital can run in their lab. It's perfectly compatible with the existing workflow, existing instrument. So it's super simple for any hospital to internalize that testing process. The reason why we could do that is because we have that breakthrough technology that we have invented at Imperial, which is essentially making the entire gene panel analysis way easier than the current process. Because current process, you need to run one reaction per target. So here you have 21 genes, you'd need 21 reactions, but that's only in theory, because practically you need to run every target in triplicates. So excluding controls, you'd have already 63 reactions. You have about 100 with all the controls. So basically, that's not something that a hospital lab can do themselves. And even if they wanted to, you have at every reaction, you got variability that compound that many times, and then you get a test that's just not robust if it's decentralized. And what we do, we have the technology that can detect the entire gene expression panel in a single PCR reaction. So yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about this, but in a nutshell, that's what we are building. So we really want to make breast cancer prognosis more accessible. There are 1 million women every single year that are not accessing this test and are being overexposed to chemotherapy, and that's really the mission of the company. But it's also a platform, and this is the transition to explaining the impact of BioBIC. But so the thing I explained is that it's a platform technology. We're starting with breast cancer, but there are so many applications that we could do with this test. And as a small startup, we're seed stage company. Saying that now, but when we got into BioBIC, that was pre-fundraising. So I mean, we had a sort of like a pre-seed, but yeah. So then, yeah, because of the resources that we have, we're focusing on one test at the time. But what is really important for us is to be able to identify the next test to really turn our company not into a single test company, but into a portfolio company that has a true platform technology. And this is something that we were really struggling to do. And the BioBIC grant was, to us, the perfect opportunity to actually get resources to start exploring that thing. So we were able to put resources internally, but also work with partners to sort of like, okay, great, we have that extra money. We were not really planning, or we didn't have the capacity to do it right now, but thanks to that grant, now we could start doing that. And so at the end of the day, being able to demonstrate the platform application for us was one of the absolute key for our fundraising round. So that's sort of one of the key milestones that we got, and that's surely part of why we were able to raise our 7 million round. So that was really instrumental for us to get the BioBIC grant. So that's on the fundraising side, the milestone side, but also like practically speaking, the BioBIC, it's not the biggest grant that we've got, but it was more impactful than the actual money because of, well, first what I just said, it's just the idea that we were able to allocate resources somewhere else, but also, and I guess that's more specific to our company, but we were, I guess like maybe lost on like a lot of startups. At least at some point, we were really struggling with runway, and at some point we were waiting for an investor to wire, and I mean basically the 25K BioBIC like literally saved the company. I mean, I was able to pay salaries thanks to her big money. So that was huge impact for us as a startup, to very like operationally speaking and practically speaking as well at some point. So yeah, massive impact on our company for sure. And then in terms of the application process, I mean, we had a pretty straightforward application process. I also personally really appreciated having to pitch in person. That I thought that was something that's not too, as far as I remember. I mean, that's the only grant that we had where, or grant that I think we applied to, where we had to pitch in person, but that was also very appreciated. So overall it was a instrumental grant for us as a company.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing your story, Celestine. On that note, we're happy to kind of go to Q&As, and I know we've obviously had a few pop through the chat. So
I can go through. So I'll go through the Q&A because I think we have both in the Q&A and in the chat. So let's start with the Q&A box. So there were like a couple of questions asking about iCure, whether it's eligible. So yeah, iCure funding is eligible to apply for BioBIC. And if you haven't spun out yet, you need to have registered your company by the time the BioBIC starts. So that's the only criteria. That would be, I don't know, James, if there's anything you want to add on the registration of the company. It should be before the start of BioBIC, right? Not the application.
The company needs to be formed before we can release any funds. So you can present without having a company established, and we have backed companies who have proven the concept without setting up a company. And we only set up a company on the basis of being approved onto one of our incubation programs. So you don't have to set up a company first, but yeah, it doesn't really make as long as you can validate, show where you've proven the concept.
Yeah, so when you write the application, so David followed on the question saying, so we can apply before forming the company.
Yes.
But yeah, you want to clarify, when are you gonna make the company registered? And that should be before November when we start the BioBIC program.
Yeah.
Second question, can the 10K voucher be used to pay for the lab rent?
No. You can use the grant funding to pay for the lab rent, but not the innovation voucher. The innovation voucher is purely for research and development programs to validate certain assumptions.
Perfect, thanks, James. And there was a question also in the chat asking for a list of universities that are eligible for the innovation voucher, but that is like all universities.
Yeah, any UK university.
Perfect. Are the startups expected to move their physical entity to the incubation space if you already have a space? No, you don't need to move or relocate, but you have the option to get access to those facilities. But I think also the companies would they be required to attend some workshops in person, James?
The workshops are being moved hybrid, so we do ask where possible that you can attend in person, because it does help create that sort of peer-to-peer networking sessions. I think workshops, especially because most companies now are spread across the UK. It's not as much as our first cohort, which was a regional focus in the northwest of England. My second cohort went national, and this one there's an expansion to including Rothamsted, Aber, and Perth to an extent as well.
Again, just to follow on what James said, we had a couple of companies that wanted to expand their access. So, for example, they had their headquarters somewhere else in the UK, but they wanted to expand and get access to the network within the Daresbury side and the Northwest. So this is also an option. So you don't have to rent a lab and office space there full time. You could rent it on a need that you need to basis. It just for us, we see really good outcomes when you are part of a network and part of an ecosystem. So that's why we offer this kind of support. But yeah, there is no obligation to relocate, if that's helpful. Also, someone asked, you don't have UKRI grant funding, but it's based on the Google Accelerator. I'm afraid that's not eligible. I don't know if James, did you have, SCFC has any experience with the Google Accelerator?
Got no experience with the Google Accelerator. If this is something you have completed, please send us more details. We do accept certain external accelerators, as mentioned, like Antler, Entrepreneur First, etc. So we'll just need to kind of look a bit more deeper into the Google Accelerator to see if it could be a fit.
How many business will we fund for this cohort? So we're aiming for 6, maybe 7, so 6 companies, I would say, for this round. So we are expanding it bit by bit. Another question about the remit. So how does SignaturBio is fit into BBSRC remit? So we are not saying that diagnostics are outside the remit. What we're saying is that if it's diagnostic for a very specific disease. So that's the problem with SignaturBio. They are starting with breast cancer, but it's a platform technology that could be applied to different diseases. And that's how we assess that it's within BBSRC criteria. So if you can show that your diagnostic technology is a platform tech, then that is within BBSRC criteria. The issue is just like if you have a specific clinical use, and then that's become outside BBSRC remit and more within MRC remit. Okay, James, can you elaborate a little bit about the voucher and how does it differ from normal funding?
Yeah, of course. So the innovation voucher works out essentially we pick up your bill. Is the best way of describing it. What we ask for from your side is to tell us who you want to collaborate with, which university, which campus, which RTO. We would need a quote from them and a project scope from yourself. If what we'll then do is we'll evaluate internally. Very rarely we say no, but most times we're happy to kind of proceed. The supplier will complete the work and we will pay up to £10,000 of that work. To give you examples, we've had people leverage the Hartree Centre, which is an AI HPC facility in Daresbury in collaboration with IBM for IA software engineering or to evaluate potential AI assumptions. And we've actually paid for £10,000 on their behalf directly to the facility. Whereas a £50,000 grant is grant funding, it will actually go straight into your bank account.
Thanks, James. The next question, is access to incubation space provided at a reduced market rate? What is the advantage of sourcing incubation space through BioBIC versus normal routes? You want to take that, James?
Each facility has their own commercial deals, so we can't negotiate on behalf of all the facilities. Obviously, it will depend on which facility you want to collaborate with, and we do ask around the expression of interest. So please let us know which facility, and depending on, we'll then put you in touch with a person in contact there who can obviously negotiate a kind of tenancy agreement with yourself directly.
Yeah, and again, just to add to that is that the idea of getting incubation space through BioBIC is this access to networks and wider support that you can get in terms of facilities that are there. But yeah, please reach out and we're happy to provide more details and connect you with people who can support in that. Next question, what TRL level you mentioned for the eligibility? Did we say from 3 maybe to 7?
Realistically, it will depend on what you're building. There are some products that are faster to go to market, and we look for probably TRL 3 and above. For some solutions that are obviously you have to go through, for example, in vitro processes, it will just depend on how you can communicate and how your narrative supports how you validated your assumptions and hit proof of concept.
Perfect. Is the 50K grant funding considered MFA?
Yes, it just hit your MFA.
Is the program going to be delivered online? So, I mean, James, you can elaborate on that, but yeah, there are different things. As I said, like, you know, the majority of, depending on your work plans that you want to achieve, so there would be R&D work. So that could be, you would use like your R&D funding to do that, whether that's through space you rent in either of any of the campuses or through your own space. But also there are some workshops and coaching, and that is hybrid, isn't it, James?
Yes, that's hybrid.
Perfect.
I want to hear, Noor, will you take a portfolio approach when making a farm decision? I mean, if you have a similar company already in your portfolio, you might not fund another one in the space. No, we don't take a portfolio approach.
We, as you saw from the criteria, we rank, so like when each company comes, we assess them and we kind of score them based on that. And that's how we decide which companies join and which don't. And as you saw from our portfolio, we have overlapping companies, whether in the food tech space, therapeutics, diagnostics. So that is totally fine.
Could part of 50 grand be used to pay for consultants if needed? What we'd ask from you is put forward a series of work packages that you are hoping to deliver over the 18 months. And if you want to allocate funding to consultants, you can obviously put it forward. But what we'll probably have in the panel is they'll go into a bit more detail about what consultants look like, and why you want to work with consultants. If you don't, if it's not going to really contribute to your product development or your market penetration or overcome IP or regulation elements, then realistically we probably won't be able to back you if you want to use consultants for that reason. But it really just depends on how you want to use consultants and your narrative putting them forward.
Great, and that's relates actually to another question that we had in the Q&A, that the use of funding is for labor, overhead, materials, travel, etc. But are there any particular expenditure that, such as working with business advisors, subcontracting, market analysis? No.
So we say realistically we can cover 4 elements: your product development, your marketing and commercial activities, your IP and regulation, and we do allow for an allocation for salary. They are the 4 critical elements we are happy to kind of back.
That's all the questions in the Q&A, and I think, James, you covered the ones in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, this webinar has been pre-recorded and obviously will be shared with you afterwards. So Noel go more detail about that with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So following this, so of course, here's our contract details, that you can contact us if you have any questions. And also following this webinar, we will send you the recording, and I'll prepare as well a document with all the questions that were asked and the answers, if that's helpful. And yeah, if there are no other questions, again, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope this was helpful, and thanks also for Celestine who joined us today. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alison.
Thank you. Bye.